Welcome back, everybody, to our new series, Hailing Frequencies Open, where we comment on our commenters' comments. So, without delay, let's get into what you say.
Yeah.
They're hailing us. Hailing frequencies open.
Captain, we're receiving 285,000 hails.
I wish I knew what to tell them.
Okay, so first off the bat, I made a post on our channel a couple days ago, and I asked the question, tell us what makes Star Trek so special to you. What keeps you coming back for more? We had a couple comments on that post. The seventh Sea Lord said, the optimistic view of the future and humanity itself. We certainly aren't perfect or have all the answers, but we learn and improve, and we can be pretty darn awesome sometimes. Plus, cool starships, of course.
True.
Yeah, very true.
I like that.
Then he concludes, characters I can respect and identify with, the humor and interplay between them, well-written stories that have plenty going on, but also at the end might have some food for thought.
Yeah, sometimes they pose some pretty interesting questions.
They do. Yeah, and sometimes that's what you and I have talked about. Like sometimes they sometimes will pose something but then don't like expand upon it, and you're like, that would have been a really great
Yeah.
episode or topic to like
hmm
explore that.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of that.
Right. Then from my office says, for me, it's the thought of what humanity can become, a better future full of promise and hope, people coming together, overcoming issues, exploring the unknown, and starships. Love me a good starship.
Yeah,
So kind of
true.
funny, like obviously very similar in thoughts, but that's generally what makes Star Trek Star Trek. But I do find it really interesting that like starships.
Yeah. I think that's across the board sci-fi. I
Yeah,
think it's the ships is what keeps us coming back. I mean, there
yeah,
are in sci-fi there are some very iconic ships. I know this is a
yeah,
Star Trek show, but I mean, you just say like Millennium Falcon and like Slave One, and it's like
right.
I know like in my head details of that ship. I
Yeah,
know
true.
the interior of the ship, I know the exterior of the ship, but the Enterprise is the same way, and it's based on the bridge. The bridges are so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
iconic, the med bays are iconic. Yeah, the starships are great.
Sadly, I failed to look further down on the Seventh Sea Lord's comment. He hadn't finished. So he
Oh,
continued on to say, the idea that diversity of ideas and viewpoints is a healthy and positive thing.
mhm.
This is something that I feel many self-described fans of the franchise completely ignore now, choosing instead to just point and scream at whatever fails to fit their own one true way of thinking. He says,
Hmm.
see, this is why I opted completely out of organized fandom many years ago. He says, you hate Enterprise or Discovery or New Trek or whatever. He says, okay, fine, but some people can feel otherwise, so kindly allow them that much at least.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
it's a great point. I think it's an excellent thing. Like here, Star Trek fans love diversity and different angles and viewpoints of something. And that's what makes Star Trek cool is like all these different people come together and agree and disagree on so many different things, but
Mhm.
they're not like jerks about it. And
Yeah,
that's kind of generally how I've always tried to be. It's like I'm not a fan of certain stuff that they've released as of late, but I really
yeah,
try hard to not go out of my way to like make anybody who enjoys that material feel awful or like you shouldn't like it.
yeah,
It just isn't for me. And like most things in Star Trek, I try to give everything a fair shake, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's
yeah. It's true. It's that's an issue that's not just like Star Trek either. I mean, it's
well,
it's
yeah.
everything. They're just I think the world is so awful that people just really grasp on to these things because it's escapism and they
Yeah.
get really passionate about things. I mean, you and I fall into it sometimes too, where it's like, like current Marvel, we're just so not fans of. And it's just
Right,
like,
right.
even like last night, my nephew was like, "Hey, you guys gonna go see Captain
Uh,
America?" And we're just like, "No,
no.
no." But that's how everything is. And the thing that you try to remember is that, like new Trek and new Star Wars and new Marvel is for like the next generation.
Yes.
But we have such a hard time letting go of how great it was long ago, like when we were kids. Because to me, the original three Star Wars movies will never be outdone or matched with new Star Wars stuff. Like
Right. It never,
it
yeah,
just
right.
won't. I mean, it's all
Right.
been done. The problem is
Right.
that everything's been done. Everything is the same, just same story, just with a fresh coat of paint on it. It's the same stuff. But the new generation needs their, new hope.
Yeah.
So our buddy from my office, he's a good example of he really enjoys like everything,
Yes, true.
really
Yes.
like positive about stuff. And I think that's great. I wish I could be more like that. I get though, like what you said, like why he kind of is backing out of like
Oh, yeah.
disconnected from because
Oh, there's,
it gets pretty toxic sometimes.
I was like, I mean, to be perfectly fair, like, I was one of the few people that I would talk to that liked like Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill
Mm.
DC stuff. I didn't like all of it, but I definitely was a fan of a lot more of the content than like a majority of people were.
Yeah,
But, it's like you just have to whatever works for you. And I try hard, especially with us being like a public voice on YouTube. I try hard not to make people feel like terrible about liking something that I may not
yeah.
enjoy. And then we had a special friend say on our
Oh,
post. Let's see what it says here.
but very smart and intelligent and handsome, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. Kali Mambu Mbenga
Oh yeah,
says what he enjoys is nerdy friends in space doing nerdy space stuff.
yeah. Well said. Well,
Well said.
I mean that's basically what it boils down to, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I think that's what separates the fandoms, the two star fandoms is one is like gritty and blasters and
Oh
just,
yeah.
outlaws, and the other one is just nerdy friends in space doing nerdy space stuff.
I tell you, we talk about it a handful of times on the Nerd Hole stuff. Adam Savage
Oh yeah.
I mean, literally said it perfectly, and I never thought about it that way, was that Star Wars is a dystopian and
Yep.
Star Trek is a utopian.
Yep. It's true.
And that's the thing too. We talked about it also too, not to get on a Star Wars, Star Trek kick, but they're just like at the end of the day, when you sit and watch any of the Star Wars movies or even any of the Disney Plus stuff, and then you watch any of the old Star Trek TV shows or the Paramount Plus stuff, anything like that,
Yeah.
you literally see that like yes, they're in space and yes, they have starships. That's about it. Like everything else across the board
Yeah.
is like wildly different.
It is. It's a whole
So,
different thing. I think it's important to talk about for us because I used to be one of those people
oh,
that was like very much like, no, Star Wars is better. Like it's much better.
yeah,
But it's different. And they're both great and they both have their own aesthetics that are great that I really enjoy. And I've really enjoyed like in the game room like blending the two together.
yeah.
I think it's cool.
And I
There's a
think
lot of really cool stuff in Star Trek and there's a lot of really cool stuff in Star Wars.
yes. And I think to your point, I think a main issue with that is like there's also Star Trek fans who don't watch Star Wars and they crap on Star Wars. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, just watch it. Like just give it a chance. And it's the same. It's like there's Star Wars fans who, well, I'll never watch Star Trek. And it's like then it's like once you started
Oh
to
yeah.
watch Enterprise, you were like, oh, I get it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. This is Star Trek. I understand. Like,
Star Trek does stories better and themes better, and Star Wars does aliens better. That's the only
oh,
difference.
yeah, yeah, that's not, yeah,
They both have cool phasers and blasters. I mean, they both have cool technology. They both have cool ships. They both have
right.
really cool space design.
Yeah, but that
But
alien,
the alien thing for me is just I
no.
can't let that one go. It's just hard.
I know there are hardcore Star Trek fans in the comments who are like, and I am there with you, but the only thing I can say to you, Caleb, is like there is an actual reason and they do actually explore it, but
Yeah.
it's not like don't like put all your eggs in one basket to like be excited for that thing because like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily going to be like oh, it's just like they do explain it, it just isn't overly
Yeah.
satisfying.
It's just like we have seen episodes where there are cool alien designs in Star Trek, but it's just not consistent, you
No,
know?
no, I know. I think that's why the new Trek, like Strange New World and the Chris Pine movies and some other stuff, like that's why the aliens look a little bit better because they have the
Yeah.
budget.
They really dig into it. I just get it's fine and it'd be totally fine if they don't comment on it. Like I'd be like, okay, so that's just what aliens are, like that's cool. But like they always they always comment on okay, so make sure you guys like wear your hat so you can blend in because these aliens, they have square ears.
Right?
And they would be freaked out if they saw your round ears. You're like, oh, got it. Like this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So just don't comment on it. That's my point. Just
I
yeah, they're
know.
aliens. They live on this planet and they breathe in this gas instead of this gas. I got it. But they look like humans. Okay, I don't care. Don't comment on how strange and crazy they are.
Well, next comment on another series is our first time watching Conspiracy Reaction,
Yeah.
which has now been edited to oblivion.
Been chopped, slashed, and gutted.
But before that happened, Rube's Good Brain Coffee commented,
Ooh.
I remember sticking with the show when it originally ran. When this one came out, it was incredibly fun. My friends and I would quote, I'll summon my science officer. And then the other friend would say, it won't like your science officer. It does like you.
That's great.
He said
That's
also that case that the creature was in, that little thing that he shows the creature, he says, my
yeah,
friend had a school case that was exactly like it, minus the bug, of course.
that's awesome. He should have just put one in there.
He should have. That's true. And I told him I really liked it. And he said, yeah, it's basically a cool looking trapper keeper. He says, I guess it was obscure enough that whoever was handling the props could use it and get away with it. That's
I
all
thought
I
it was just
can.
like a business briefcase, like a metal business briefcase.
Yeah, he says, that's all I could think about now whenever I see the episode.
That's really funny. Maybe something was going on with your friend.
Oh,
To go on like a prop maker's rant,
okay.
this is what happens is like they on the set, they're like, hey, we need like a metal briefcase for this shot. And they're like, I'll just go find I'll go buy something, you know?
Right, yeah.
And then they go buy some briefcase thing. And
Yeah.
then, now 20, 30 years later, people are like, oh, I remember I knew somebody who had this briefcase. And then you go down this whole rabbit hole of like trying to find this briefcase. And people will meticulously like go back and try to find these things just to put like a bug in it and have it like on their display. Like this was the
This is,
specific case used in this episode.
yeah, totally.
And it's like this whole thing. It
100%.
becomes this pop culture thing, and some tech or some like intern just went out one day and just was like, I'll just buy this briefcase from this like shop or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. But isn't that cool though? Isn't that cool that that's like
Yes.
what happens?
Well, that's the thing. When we go to the Ticonderoga tour up there, they're like, yeah, don't touch stuff because like 90% of it is like World War II aircraft and machinery switches and, items. And it's like, if you damage them, there aren't more of these.
Yeah, I know.
They're not
I know.
currently still making these things.
A lot of the Star Wars stuff was all that stuff too, like war, military stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. The Captain Olimar said on that same video, he said, I tried to get some of my friends into TOS, but they bounced off of it because of the look. To me, it
Mm.
looks so classic and retro, and the characters grow on you very quickly. Bones, Spock, and Kirk carry the show, though everyone is great except for Chekhov.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still don't really know what Chekhov does.
He tells everybody how stupid they are that they're not Russian.
Nuclear vessels.
Vessels.
That's
Nuclear
that's
vessels.
the only thing I remember from Chekhov.
Then on our conspiracy podcast, we had a few comments. Harry Pothead says, and he's referencing us talking about Captain Scott, the female captain. He says, my
Oh,
headcanon has always been that Janet Lester from the TOS episode, who takes over Kirk in the series finale, was just insane. So she's just insane. There
yeah.
was no rule about women not being allowed to be captains. She wasn't allowed to be a captain because of my before mentioned hypothesis of insanity, and it's evident in the episode she's driven like a captain but insane. I hope that's what they intended.
Yeah, you can justify that. Yeah.
It's hard to know because some stuff they wrote very specifically and it works out to be fine that like, oh, this character was just this way or this character was just that way. But
Yeah.
sadly, because it is a mid 60s show, sometimes they're not really progressive on how they handled women characters.
No, that episode is almost to like show you like why there can't be women captain. It's like
Right.
justifying like, yeah, you
Yeah.
see what happens? See how mad they are with
And it's
power?
we talk about it in that episode that like that actress and Shatner playing as her, like they do such a good job in that episode. It gets such a bad rap, but
Yeah.
like the acting in it is like so decent.
No, yeah, she's good in that episode. Like she's not the issue.
Yeah. And Captain Alimar says on the same podcast, he says he doesn't like your science officer. He does like you. This episode is wild in tone and is pretty entertaining, but I don't think it's good. I like the
Hmm.
beginning with some good mystery and Picard getting verbally patted down for bugs, but the more you learn about what's happening, the stupider the invasion becomes.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Naturally. So Quentin gets Riker all alone in a room, and he's not even hiding the fact he has a bug on him, and he immediately makes Riker suspicious of him. Then he assaults him openly, allowing Beverly the chance to stun him and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. When he was supposed to just go down to
Right.
medbay and have Beverly be infected. Like that was his mission.
Right. And and I think what they wanted but didn't think about it was they wanted the jump scare of is Riker infected? And like and now is it
Yeah.
Picard against his first officer? But then you have them say like, well, you're intended for the doctor, and it's like, well, that's not how it plays out on the ship,
No.
like at all.
No, not at all. It's very stupid. It's very stupid for him to even like have the case open.
Totally.
And then even when he was like, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's an undiscovered species. It's great. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you." And Riker's like, "No, I don't. I'm not a science officer. I don't really care."
Right.
He's like, "But you can show Beverly. I mean, she's in the medical field. Like,
Right.
I don't really care about it." And he's like, "No, no, you're gonna look at it. You're gonna freaking look at it." Like, so he went off mission immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately went off mission. So
Yeah.
that's why that scene at the end when he's like, "You were intended for the doctor," and he's like, "Well, I couldn't avoid it." Riker came in and saw
Yeah.
the whole thing. He's like, "No, no, that's not what happened at all. That's not even close." I mean, obviously Riker's lying, but it's like,
Right.
no, that guy very specifically was very excited
To
to
show
show
it the right.
him,
Yes.
even under
Uh,
protest. Riker was like, "No, I'm good."
I'm all
No,
that's
no,
okay,
you're
man.
good. He won't like your science of. Okay.
Uh, he says the mealworm eating scene is so weird. Do they think Picard is infected? Why do they think
Yeah,
that? Wasn't the bug meant for Beverly? I think
yeah.
it's one of those things that again they're trying to intend. I think they're just trying to scare Picard. I think
They're playing
that's
it.
what that is
They're
supposed.
totally playing that scene for like shock value.
Right, right, exactly. I think it's like the scene where the good guys surrounded by the bad guys and they're like lavishing the fact that like they're evil and they're bad and they've won and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
eat up, Picard. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do type of thing.
Yeah. What do you think? It's weird that we're bugs and we eat bugs? What are you, weird?
He says the bug prop is cool, but the stop motion isn't done very well, in my opinion, and it going into Remic's mouth was awkward.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, the whole scene of it going up the leg for me is like, oh man,
It's not great.
that's that's good, yeah.
He says, then the scene happens. Riker and Picard are tired of this nonsense, and without even knowing the Queen is in Remick, full phaser set to kill blast Remick's head until it explodes while his chest implodes and they blast the Queen too. I like that part.
That is true. That is true. They explode his head just because of the bug in his mouth,
Yeah,
like nothing, no, nothing else
no,
to go on.
nothing.
Just murder
It's,
him.
I mean, his throat is like being crazy, but yeah,
Yeah,
it isn't enough to like murder the dude.
but I mean, maybe Riker knows that it's in the brain at this point because he was in medbay with Beverly. So
Yeah,
maybe he knows it's connected to the brain, but that's still like murder. You don't really know if you can
right.
like get the bugs out of the
And
brain. Is Riker the one that shoots the head, or is Picard the one that shoots the head?
Picard shoots it because Picard he gives like, which is great. Patrick Stewart gives us like really awesome disgust face. He's really disgusted, and he like angrily fires, and Riker is like looking at Picard to be like, okay, what do you want to do? And Picard fires, so then Riker turns and then he fires. So he's just following what Picard is doing. But he also does get information from Beverly that they're on his neck.
Oh yeah,
And she says the only way to stop these things is to
Is-
put it on kill setting.
yeah.
She goes, stun doesn't do anything.
And she tells him about the
Yeah,
thing in the neck,
right. I forgot that happened.
and then
So,
he immediately doesn't look at anybody's neck
no.
because what's his name walks right past him. He's like, "Hey, you better eat your dinner while it's cold," and he walks right by, and he doesn't never looks at him.
Yeah. Well, we can't
He's
have that
got
reveal too early.
he's got the big Queen's thing hanging out like a
Yeah,
big
this
tail.
big. Yeah.
Everything here seems normal. I like that. I'm gonna make a shirt that says Picard shot first.
You should. You should. He says this episode would have worked better if we had actually seen more of the Federation so we can be a bit more invested in it before they dismantle it. Can't
Yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. Obviously, have
They show us two guys that we already don't like.
yes, yeah.
When Picard shoots Remic's brain off, he's like, "This is for all the stuff you did on my ship. This is for your investigation."
He says for trivia, I had heard that the gore for this episode was a middle finger to the censors from Gene, who wanted to be able to do whatever he wanted on the show. It's possible the guy, I don't want to say he's unhinged, but he definitely kind of wanted to do whatever he wanted. So
But I don't know how he got it past the censors, though. That's crazy.
it is surprising. It is surprising.
They blow his like skin off his skull,
Yeah.
blam, and then and then after they shoot the queen out of his stomach, it's just he's just sitting there, and it's just like his full back of his like skeleton just exposed, and he's just like, this is like that's a lot.
Oh,
Perfect society where nothing bad ever happens anymore.
that's right. Then he concludes, not bad compared to episodes where Picard might have a girlfriend or Wesley does anything.
Well,
Thanks.
that's why this episode's a 10.
That's
Wesley's
right.
not in it.
That's right. Thanks for the review as always, guys. Keep up the good work. Well, we appreciate your comment, Captain Alimar.
Yep. Captain Olimar and the Daystrom review has been pretty active on our Dragon Ball Z rewatches
Oh
lately too.
yeah,
Which is, yeah,
that's cool.
we might need to do our own
Dragon, Dragon.
comment section. Yeah, yeah, it's fun. We like hearing from you guys.
Next is our comment from my office during
Oh,
our conspiracy podcast.
it,
He goes on to say, overall, to speak from my view as a fan, I did enjoy the episode and consider it one of the top for the first season. I like the departure from the norm, the freaky nature of what's taking place, and the little horror elements included. Perhaps this won't be the only time there's a horror type element to an episode of TNG. Maybe.
it'll be the only skitterbug, don't.
True. True. I find a bunch of this next stuff very weird, and a result of this being season one. Data trying
Yeah.
to laugh at a joke was dumb, as was his not knowing the phrase swimming in moonlight. He says, I love Data, but I didn't like this scene. Same deal with Worf not bathing. They were going for humor, but it didn't strike me. Oh no, a code 47. The light bugged me as well. It's Walker, Space Ranger. Time to come to the planet lit by a giant kitchen warming light for a secret meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is ridiculous.
He says Riker coming right up behind Data's chair at the science station was a weird choice. Would you like a neck massage, Mr. Data? He says, I was never a fan of Data rattling off several of those cliches at once. It always felt weird for the character.
It's like they're trying too hard to remind you that he's an android.
Yeah, maybe that's what. Yeah, I don't know. It's really funny. Like, I don't know if I have a soapbox to stand on about it, but like, I like it, but I try to think to myself, like, why do I like it though? Is it just because I like Data because of down the road stuff, and so anything Data related is just like cool, this is hilarious? Or do I legitimately like it as a beat as him as a pure character? And it's like, I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind it when he does that. It feels a little forced sometimes, you know.
Oh, sure, sure.
But I think it always comes back to my thing of just like it's like they don't understand the past, like any of them. Like I
No,
don't.
no, no.
They're so disconnected from the old world. And that again, that is just to be like, oh, look how much in the future and crazy this is.
Yeah, yes,
But that's all that is played for. Picard, like we always talk about Picard not knowing what like a city block is and like what like
it's
cars
foolish.
are. Like, I
It's
mean, dude,
foolish.
because here and my example is always this. I know what pirate ships are.
Right.
That was about the same length of time, right? It's
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And they probably have city blocks in San Francisco where the Federation headquarters is. I'm sure they still use the block system.
I'm sure.
I think that's where that falls into. When someone says like he's like, "Oh, that's, that's something." He's like, "Oh, it's like this." Or like that. He gives you like the
Right,
full like
right.
thesaurus version of that word.
Yes.
And it's like, "Yeah, Data, we got it."
I've always viewed it as like Data is excited that somebody is asking a question and he feels like he needs to explain it because how many times in his career is he like, oh, that's this thing? And then they're like, what does that even mean? And then he's like, oh, well, it's like this. Or they tell him to like simplify what he's said or theorize what he's thinking. So I always viewed it as he's just like beating them to the punch and like over explaining it so that like they don't ask him what he's talking about. But he doesn't know when to stop because they keep asking him questions.
I know.
I have always viewed him as the golden boy of trying to be the best friend you've ever had because all he wants to do is help.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know enough to stop.
Well, that's the thing that, like, honestly, the thing that irritates me more is that, like, Picard will ask him to explain and go on, and then he does, and then Picard's like, all right, Data, shut up, shut up, shut up. That's
Right.
enough. And it's like you asked, and you know
Right.
that he's a computer, right? Like he's not just gonna give you like a one word answer. He's gonna explain it in detail. I mean,
Like, as funny as it is that the computer is like, okay, that's sufficient, it is stupid that that happens. It's them capitalizing on like the writers and producers think this is a funny bit that we have kept going, that he over explains things and talks too much and like it just carries on. And it's even so bad another computer hates it and thinks it's too much. It's like, oh, that's
yeah,
hilarious.
I got it.
But I don't think it works well because it then ends up making the computer have like a weird personality that it probably shouldn't have. So,
Computer shutting down.
yeah. Thanks for the clarification on the Boolean captain. I couldn't figure out the race, but these are early days of TNG. He looks a bit different than they will down the road.
Yeah.
The verification questions were pretty neat and remind me of an interesting scene from season 3 of Star Trek Picard, but that's a conversation for nearly 40 years from now. Odd deaths. Starbase 2 evacuated. No more ice cream at Starfleet Command. What is going on?
Ah, this is outrageous.
I do like the explanation that the Enterprise has been pretty far out there in space, and also found it interesting they called it the Outer Rim.
Yeah, that's been used.
Copyright, sue
Sue him. You go get him, George Lucas.
them. It would explain why there haven't been any other ships out there with them. That's true.
Hmm.
I like that they also telegraph the weakness that the imposters don't have the same memories. Now we know what to look for.
You remember that time on Captain Beta 5? Yep.
I don't
No,
remember
you don't. We never was there.
that.
We were on Captain Beta 6, you
You
idiot.
know full well we've never
Shoot
been
his
the
head.
beta.
Shoot his head right off.
You know full well we've never been the beta
Oh,
Captain
full.
6.
Wow,
We've
that
only
was
been the
Captain
beta
Beta
Captain 9.
14.
This line stood out to me. Friendship must dare to risk, or it's not friendship. It's a good line.
Mm, this is a good line.
Risking his career, disobeying orders, Picard is showing some feeling and loyalty again here. A little bit more character depth for him, which is nice to see. He says, as you two discussed, Picard is definitely different than Kirk, and he takes some getting used to. This is especially true as they're trying to figure out who he even is as a character. But hang in there, he does develop further as time goes on, as Will stated, which is true.
Hmm.
He totally gets like his own legs, and you're eventually will just be like, I get why there's like the internet debate of which captain is better as Kirk or Picard. Like right now,
Yeah.
hands down, it's Kirk. But
Yeah.
as it fleshes out, you're like, it's an actual true debate. And
The
it's
first time that we've seen Picard be like Kirk, I feel, is in the season finale when he's like, "No, no, we're not going to like red alert
oh
because I'm not going to show them that we're hostile immediately." That was like the first captainy
yeah,
call that he's made, really. That was like, "Oh, that's something Kirk would do." He would be like, "Nah, no, we're flying in, no shields, no weapons, nothing."
yeah, true.
Also, Kirk would have chased him down and blown him up, but that's a whole.
Data's special mission even got the computer telling him to shut up. Haha. Data used another contraction, but did so quoting a phrase. Maybe that's the loophole in his speech programming. Can he use contractions when quoting something else? They've played a little fast and loose in season 1 with that and his emotional qualities, which is very true.
Mhm.
And debris from a space vessel of some kind. Really? Debris from a spaceship in space? Who'da thunk? Looks like the USS Horatio bit the space dust. Walker, Space Ranger, has died. Sorry, Walker, you can't take the place of Tasha Yar in our hearts.
Yeah. I don't know.
Did you catch that the Horatio was an ambassador class heavy cruiser?
I
Can't
did.
wait to see one on screen. Not in pieces. Or flotsam, that is. Yeah, we like it. Unusual for a starship to return to Earth seemed a bit odd. I guess that does make sense since they have to travel so far out. So, how often do starships return to Earth? I wonder how many they have on patrol in the Sol system.
Every
It is,
5 years.
it is funny. It's like his one note about how the Outer Rim feels right. Like, okay, well, it explains like where they're not really interacting with a lot of ships and like they're really going out of their way to meet with the Horatio and the two other ships. It's like, okay, okay. But then it's like ships don't come back to Earth. Then it immediately feels like only the Enterprise is out there in space. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't there be ships here like every day, if not every hour? Like, it's not
Yeah,
just
that's
Starfleet. Like,
true.
there's so many other alien species, worlds. Like, they would be constantly coming to Earth and visiting and trading and doing a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Starfleet always feels dead to me, but
Yes, yes.
well, in Enterprise they show Starfleet and there's always people like tons of people outside walking around.
Yeah.
That feels a little bit more like people are doing stuff there, like it's a big, school, academy, and headquarters.
Yeah, I agree.
But they show that building and the Golden Gate Bridge, and they're like, Starfleet headquarters.
Admiral Quinn is back and Remick too. They've got a nasty surprise to take up to the ship. How about a new pet? Looks a bit like a SETI eel to me. Caleb thinks so too. I mean, really, the main difference between these bluegill aliens and the SETI eels, one goes in your ear, one goes in your mouth. It's simple.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I'll take one of each, please.
Also, you know what's interesting too, to even further your both of your connections here, is that in the scene, Khan grabs this thing in the sand and then pulls the tiny little dudes off of like the mother and then puts
Oh,
that in their ear. So it's very similar even further with this idea that the things that
hmm.
go inside your body are like the children and that the mother is a different creature.
I mean, it has the same pincers, same
Oh
long
yeah,
tail. I mean,
has to.
it's just got armor because it lives on a desert planet now.
Yes. Then he says, suddenly Quinn is strong. I feel like the turn to aggression on Quinn's part was very sudden. I would have thought the intruder would hold back some, be a little stealthier, but instead he decides to drop several of the senior staff. Bold, but stupid.
Yeah. Yep, 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 yep.
It's
Also, I
also
don't appreciate how he is able to like manhandle Worf. I think that's a little too much.
true. Well, also Data doesn't come down, and I think that's also a point. Like they don't want Data to come down because he probably wouldn't overpower Data.
Yeah. I don't get why having a bug in your brain would increase your strength past like a Klingon's strength. I
Yeah.
get that he's old and it makes him like young and his muscles work again, but like it still wouldn't make you stronger than a Klingon.
No, probably not. No. The other thing I was thinking about with your with you talking about this was when they come across the Horatio and it's blown up. Obviously, you're left to believe that they self-destructed. But my thing is, did they reveal themselves so heavily that Walker felt like he had to blow up the ship to stop them from invading? Or was he like the last one on the ship and he decided to kill all of the infected people?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
My assumption was like after that meeting,
his second officer.
yeah,
Yeah,
like bugged somebody and then they self-destructed the ship.
yeah. I don't
I
know.
don't know. It's weird.
Then he says, "Watch out for Riker Fu and for that table." Geordi thrown through the doors. Worf dropped, but not until he pulled out the Kirk double-fisted maneuver. Boom, bam.
Yeah, I know that is such a classic Kirk thing.
Oh, totally. He says,
I don't think that.
"Wow, time to phaser this guy to oblivion."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that he fights all those guys and then Beverly shows up and just like zaps him twice.
She's the brains of the bunch.
Yeah. I just picture like as like Worf like passing out from getting thrown against the wall. He's just like he's just like if only Tasha was here.
Oh no, no. Then he says, "That's a big parasite in his head. How did that feel?"
Yeah,
I
not
mean,
good.
it goes through your mouth, but how does it then get around to your brainstem?
You don't want to know.
I think the little pinchers cut through all the meat.
Oh.
Yep. Last I knew, there was no Axis hatch. That's because he makes one. The plot dictated that the parasite didn't leave Quinn's body when he got phasered. Otherwise, how would they know to look for the tail thing in a person's neck? But it does beg the question, why? If the other critters decided to peace out once their host got shot, why didn't this one? Maybe it was the
Hmm.
special parasite. So here's the thing I was thinking about. Beverly stuns him and then like drugs him to keep him on the table, right?
Yeah.
She then tells Picard the only way to stop these things is to set them on kill. She obviously would tell Riker that as well because she's obviously the person who puts the thing on the back of his neck. So I think
Yeah.
what happens is when they're down in those scenes, their phasers are all set to kill and they're literally killing those people.
Yeah.
They're killing, the Vulcan admiral when he's doing the Vulcan neck pinch. Riker's killing Trila Scott and the other guy, and
Yeah,
then he's
it's
killing the admiral. And the bodies are dead, and so the thing leaves the brainstem and exits the mouth. Where in Quinn's situation, the body is not dead and it's still thriving because he's just unconscious.
yeah, because it's a host.
Right.
Yeah, I totally assume that they're dead in that
Yeah.
scene. He kills them all. But so for Remick though, because like after he explodes, there's like all the bugs are all over the place. So like they're all just like living in his stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's great.
He pukes them out, bleh, and then they go and get in somebody else's mouth.
That is a good point though, like how they get to the brainstem and then when they come out of the mouth again.
Yeah. They're just coming through the same hole they went in.
Yeah.
Also, how did these get into the admirals in the first place? They're not super quick movers. Can't you just close your mouth? Nope.
That's
Impossible.
true. We never saw somebody get like infected with them
No. No.
who
I,
didn't want it.
I honestly, I don't. I mean, this is a disturbing thing to think about, but I think that literally either people are sleeping and they put them in their mouths, like an
Mhm.
infected person, or this is the terrible thing, like they're holding people down and like putting it in their mouth.
Yeah, I can see that.
But your point, when I was editing and even when we're talking about it now, I keep thinking like we needed to see the Admiral, Vulcan Admiral, like get infected because, like you said, like that doesn't make any sense. Like, how would they overpower this guy to get this to happen?
Mhm. Yeah, plus he also should have been a lot smarter to see that there was something going on before anybody else too.
Right, right. Some tension as Riker approaches Crusher. I did jump slightly, begging the question, is Riker compromised? Does he suddenly want to eat worms? I hope so. And then he says, why does Jonathan Frakes have to do all the gross stuff? Goop,
Yeah.
worms, poor guy. But no time to think about that. Squish the bugs. Chase the Admiral. Aim for the kidneys.
He started off in the kidneys.
Oh, yeah. Aim for the back of the neck.
Yeah. No.
Remick has a Professor X chair. Neat. Then the first gross part, the neck bulging. My parents would not let me watch the episode as a kid because of this entire scene. That's funny.
Yeah.
Exploding head. Suddenly, I feel like hamburgers. But Remick was still in there, right? Does he know what's happening, or did the Queen destroy what
Yeah.
he was?
Yeah. And they don't take over the pain sensor part of
No.
your brain. So he felt all of
Oh,
that. I
yeah.
told you. This is for causing such havoc on the Enterprise.
By the way, that queen mother creature spilling out, gross. Cleanup on aisle 5.
That was pretty gross.
And then he ends, then the cliffhanger, a beacon has been sent. Will more ever come? How long
No.
until they arrive? We'll never know. But don't go losing your head, guys, or half of your torso.
Yeah. Keep your ribs in.
Keep them in.
I don't know. Maybe they come back in Picard.
Yeah,
That'd be,
totally.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they come back in like Strange New Worlds and Picard and Lower Decks, and yeah, yeah.
They might. You never know. They might come back in Strange New Worlds season 3. That would be cool. That would be really cool. If, like we,
I
if
mean,
I like actually understand that reference now.
it would be cool, but then also it would be like, why wouldn't they know about it? So
Why don't they know about Gorn? Will?
that's because that Gorn that they met on the planet, they didn't really talk to and didn't understand him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did Kirk ever ask about like him as a
Yeah.
person? No, he didn't.
And then our last comment for this video is from Captain Alimar again. He says on our Man Trap episode,
Oh no.
yep. He said, I really like the scene when Spock is trying to convince Bones that Nancy is the salt vampire and he hits her with the hammer fist to the face.
Yeah.
Listen to me. When I was younger, when I first saw this one, I didn't understand what was happening with Nancy turning old and into a different person.
Yeah, nobody does.
He says, good episode overall. Good luck remembering this one, Caleb.
That one I actually do remember. How
Yeah,
could you forget the salt vampire one? I mean, it's a
it's the
classic.
classic. It's
Yeah.
it's not the first one they filmed, but it is the premiere episode of Star Trek. So,
I
yeah.
did like that episode, yeah.
Shoot him, Doctor. Shoot her. Shoot it. Oh, blast.
Shoot! I haven't eaten salt since I saw that episode.
No, not at all. Terrified of
No,
it.
I'm scared of it. I don't want to turn into a big lipped alien monster.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for so many comments, really diving in. We appreciate you finding the posts and going back to old videos and just general conversating. We appreciate it. Helps Caleb and I laugh about things and just enjoy your guys' thoughts, especially me personally not knowing what does the general fandom think of conspiracy. I always kind
Mhm.
of assumed it was like but it kind of seems like people, while there is some hangups, people
Yeah.
generally enjoy the episode.
It seems like people don't like they don't think the episode is great, but they enjoy that it's a fun episode. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how we feel.
I agree.
There's a lot of like things in the episode that are like that doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah,
overall it's fun. It's a fun episode.
totally.
I have
Totally.
to add a skitterbug to my collection.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I gotta find one.
Up somewhere up in the rafters, just have it like the little
Yeah,
prongs coming in.
put it like in my xenomorph's mouth.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before we end the episode, let's quickly do the thing that's so popular this week.
What's popular?
This is popular, so popular. This is popular this week.
I bet it'll be an Enterprise thing and a TOS thing.
That's
Here we
weird.
go. Two best Star Trek shows ever made. Here we go.
So, from Amy Runn, almost 3 weeks ago, they stated that they just started watching Enterprise for the first time in 2025, and they were like, what is this abomination of an intro? And then, like, less than 2 weeks later, they end up making the comment, I've never been more wrong in my life. This is probably one of the best intros of TV shows ever.
'Cause I got faith.
Yeah.
It's a great intro. It's probably one of the better ones in my opinion. It doesn't fit the last season. I'll say that. The
Hmm.
the music is so like like
Yes.
pro, like hopeful, like, hey, we're gonna conquer space, man. We're gonna like all be friends. This is gonna be great. We're gonna keep going because we're humans and we're not gonna
Right.
stop. We're not gonna let these Vulcans keep us down, man. And then the last season is like they're at war and Archer's like mad at everybody, and it's
Yes.
like this not doesn't fit anymore. Like it makes me sad now.
Yeah, it is so funny that I think every Star Trek show, the intro is just instrumental.
Space. It's a big place.
I remember when it came out, like everyone hated that there was lyrics to it because all Star Trek shows had were just
Yeah.
instrumental, right? But when you really think about it, it's only like 125 years in the future or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think it connects with people in our modern time a little bit closer to Star Trek. It doesn't feel quite as out of reach as like the Kirk and Picard does stuff. Because that
Yeah.
feels like, well, yeah, that's like future crazy land. Where
Yeah, in the future they use
Enterprise,
an orchestra.
yeah, yeah, opera singers and I don't know. It's interesting. Though the first two seasons that have the slower version and it just says Enterprise and there's no like tambourine and like extra beat and it's really slow
Yeah.
and Russell Watson is just taking his time with the lyrics is like very,
It's really
very,
great.
very
Yeah,
good.
it's really great. I really, really enjoy Strange New Worlds
Mm-hmm.
because it is a total call to TOS, but it's like updated. The orchestra and the vocals of the bum ba bum bum, and
Yeah.
then when it ends with that like Swain,
Oh
it's like
yeah.
such a I'm like, man, that's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
But Enterprise for me will always be top tier intro
Yeah.
because I think for me it's more of the visuals too. It's the
Mm.
progression of the the pirate ship, the Enterprise, to the first plane, the Enterprise, then the space
Subtle.
shuttle. It's just such a great like progression. It like tells you the story of like how we came to be in space, like
Right,
as
right.
humanity, like as engineering. It's really great. Like it's all this like travel stuff and
Yeah.
maps. I love it. It's very like hopeful.
Like everything that humanity has done has led to this moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah. The good stuff that humanity is. So that was in the Enterprise subreddit. So now we'll go to the TOS subreddit and you'll
Yeah, I
enjoy
totally.
that.
I know it.
Yeah, and this is from KK Can 2020 yet again.
Hey, that's
He
cool.
he posts some pictures of Nichelle Nichols at NASA
That's cool.
back in the day.
What does she do? Did she actually work there for a little bit?
Yeah, in 1977, she partnered with NASA to recruit minority and female personnel for the space agency's shuttle program.
Okay, that's cool.
So she was a part of like a 1977 recruitment film to help put women in space, basically.
That's cool. I wanted to see that movie, The Women That Worked at NASA, or yeah, at
Oh,
NASA back in the
the
day. Yeah.
with Viola Davis. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's. I mean, yeah, we get Sally Ride out of this, and we get a couple teachers out of it. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff comes from her promoting
Cool.
such a thing. Yeah, I think all the way up to 2015, she volunteered her time to
Uh,
promote NASA and recruit diverse astronauts.
wow,
So
that's cool.
she did, she took her kind of quiet position on a 60s show and like did actual groundbreaking work for
Yeah.
humanity. So it's
Yeah.
it's pretty rad.
She had lines and she was a good character, and but the most important thing was that she was visible, you know.
Right, right, yes, right.
She wasn't just like an engineer down in the, ship. She was on the bridge, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't rotate her character like they do with the chief engineer in Next Gen. Like she was more present in the 60s as a black woman than
Yeah.
a chief engineer in the 80s. So,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
well, very cool. That
I
is what
like
was popular this week.
like it.
Yeah. So we just appreciate everybody taking their time to comment. and discuss things with us and explore episodes with us. It helps us feel connected to you guys, and in general, just look forward to watching more Star Trek. I think it's a good middle ground where if an episode's kind of a slog or kind of like not that fun or is really fun, then we get to kind of bounce opinions off
Mhm.
of each other, which is nice.
Yeah, and sometimes this becomes our, our space where everybody kind of writes in their thoughts, and then we can kind of sense the feeling of
Yeah.
everybody, and then kind of double down and say more of how much we hate an episode. Because we try to be pretty just like, yeah, I don't know, I don't really like this episode. But
Right.
then when we get to like here and everyone's like, yeah, this episode's trash, we're like, yeah, this episode is trash. Thanks for saying it's garbage because we hate it. It was so hard to be positive while we were recording this
Yeah,
episode.
I don't disagree.
But it's
Yeah,
usually not. The thing is even bad episodes have stuff in it that we enjoy.
oh, yes. Absolutely.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
Always.
It's like when you're golfing and you're having a really bad, you can't drive the ball, you can't chip, and then like the last hole you hit like a really good drive, and then you have a really good putt, and you're like, oh man, I gotta play again. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Gets you right back in. So please continue to do all the fun, excellent things down below. Always head over to Caleb's channel when one of these videos ends to watch something over on his channel. Keep the fun rolling. But if you want to keep talking about Star Trek, make sure you head on over to our latest episode, which is the season finale of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Until we come back for season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation, take us out, Caleb.
All right. Handling frequencies closed.